Honoring the very heart of party politics, our county chairman, the leaders that make it work at the local level. Take another bow. I'm so pleased to be here with your dynamic Lieutenant Governor, Rebecca Clayfish. Our Lieutenant Governor, my wife can attest, has just the same level of energy, and it explains a lot about the great success of this administration. Lieutenant Governor Clayfish, thank you. Chairman Brad Courtney, thank you so much for hustling back from Cedarville on an airplane from your daughter's graduation, and I'm sure your wife has no problem with loading the U-Haul totally all by herself. Back here today. Don't put that one on me, all right? That's a long-term problem for me. And I really am excited to be with you tonight and to share a few remarks before the dinner begins this evening. It is so cool to be in Wisconsin, the home of, gosh, I mean, go down the list here. I mean, the home of Senator Ron Johnson, the home of Congressman Paul Ryan, extraordinary delegation to Dana Bush and Jim Sensenbrenner has been a mentor and a friend. Names like that. Like Tom Petri and Sean Duffy and Reed Gribble, and this is home to the most courageous governor in the United States of America. Thank you for this Republican Party delivering that kind of leadership to this state and to this nation. It's a joy to be with you tonight. And hopefully in a few moments to share with you what I think is the larger context of what you're doing here in Wisconsin. And so as dinner begins to move in, and please, absolutely, my wife just had a banquet in Indianapolis the other day. When they started coming in, she played that Be Our Guest song, which I think was really funny when she did it. And so just put that in the back of your mind. My remarks will be better, probably. I'm so excited to be introduced by Charlie Sykes. A lot of you don't know, I'm like, you know, I'm kind of a groupie. I'm kind of a Charlie Sykes groupie. Isn't he something here? He should be a social flag. The voice of common sense in the Midwest for decades. I actually worked in talk radio. I have a background in radio back in the 1990s. And Charlie Sykes was then and remains the gold standard of common sense conservatism. And I'm just so humbled. I'm so humbled by his introduction. Charlie did go on a little bit in that introduction. It kind of reminded me, Charlie, not long ago, a woman was introducing me in little Rushville, Indiana. And it was at another Republican dinner, true story. And she'd gone to our website and she printed out the long version of my biography and read the whole thing. I mean, really, all of it. You know, human events, man of the year, Republican leader, cut taxes in Indiana by $650 million on an annual basis. Fastest growing school choice program in America, the whole bit. She got a little wound up about it. She said, you know, there are so few great men in American politics today. I give you Governor Mike Pence. So then I got up and I gave my speech kind of like tonight. Anyway, Karen and I got in our red pickup truck and we were driving back to the governor's residence that night, and I said, "What'd you think of my speech?" She said, "It was fine, it was good." And I said, "Well, I was thinking about that woman who introduced me, you know, and what she said." And my wife said, "Uh-huh." And I said, "Well, I mean, really, you know, if you take yourself totally out of it, I mean, really, there are very few great men in American politics today." And my wife said, without missing a beat, "I know there's one fewer than you think there is." Would you welcome the First Lady of Indiana, who wanted to come to Wisconsin because we love this first family. Karen Pence. I really am delighted to be here. I'm delighted my schedule permitted me to be here tonight because, as Charlie said, we only run governor's elections every 4 years in Indiana, so there's a little more latitude there in terms of my schedule. But I'm thrilled to be with all of you. I come from a state that works, and so do all of you. because of the Republican leadership, because of the bold Republican leadership that you all have made possible, Wisconsin is a state that works, and Wisconsin is back on. And I know that's going to come through in 2014. It really is extraordinary to think about it. $3 billion in debt, taxes now been lowered, and all that debt is gone. People are going back to work, unemployment below the national average. That is real progress. That is Wisconsin moving forward. And while there's a lot of credit to go around, and I expect he'd be the first one to share it, with the members of the state legislature who are here, with Republicans all around, many of us around the country, each and every day, are truly grateful for the vision, the courage, the character, and the example of the 45th governor of the state of Wisconsin. Scott Walker is admired among his peers and all over the United States. Scott Walker's re-election, I must tell you today, it's not just about keeping Wisconsin on the right track. It's not just about more jobs and less taxes and better educated kids and a better prepared workforce in this great state. I truly believe, in the larger context, the challenge before you in Wisconsin today, the challenge that we face in Michigan, the challenge we face in Ohio, the challenge we face in Florida and in Pennsylvania, is a challenge that really is an opportunity to prove that when we produce leadership at the state level, that's willing to be bold, that's willing to demand government as good as our people, that we are willing to marshal the support to re-elect that leadership. And I ask you to give Scott Walker a landslide victory in Wisconsin to prove that point. You know, as our states stand out, we're proving that Republican leadership matters and Republican ideas still work. Not that it's too hard for Indiana and Wisconsin to stand out in our particular neighborhood at times. Did you know there's a new, you're going to think I made this up. There's a new Gallup poll out today. You can Google it if you lose interest in my remarks. There's a new Gallup poll out today released that showed that 1/2 of the residents of Illinois want to move out of Illinois. Which only leads me to ask, what's up with the other half? I mean, we have a lot of fun. I know Scott and I both have a lot of fun fishing in that pond. In Indiana, we call business in Chicago low-hanging fruit. You know, you might have seen some of Indiana's billboards if you were popping down the Hoosier State. A couple of years ago, we put up billboards that said simply one question: Illinois? Question mark. We put them up this year that say still annoyed. And one that you can borrow here in Wisconsin, we put one up that said can you spell deficit? We spelled it with a D-I-F-I-C-I-T on the billboard, and then we wrote, we can't. I mean, the truth of the matter is that this great state, my home state, is always a good decision. Because we're states that put into practice the principles that have always made America strong. That's why we unapologetically, we promote our states. And we promote our states and have that confidence because we have confidence in freedom. We have confidence in applying the principles of economic freedom, of fiscal responsibility, of personal responsibility, and we know that when you do all of those things in the right way, in the right order, it all still works. And I know here in Wisconsin and in my home state, we don't just talk about freedom, we live it, we breathe it, we keep freedom at the center of who we are, and it's really what makes our states a success. And I would submit to you the reason for the success that Republicans in Wisconsin and my home state have experienced is because that commitment to individual responsibility, the rugged individualism, is really at the very heart of what it is to be from the Midwest, isn't it? I mean, we are, as we proved again this winter, we're pretty hardy stock around here, right? I mean, we had the coldest winter in Indiana in like the last 30 years, which means to say we had a pretty average Wisconsin winter in Indiana. Yeah, thanks for not groaning when I said that. But it really was not was. But I mean, the truth of the matter is we're all descendants of forebears that were strong enough, tough enough, and resilient enough to build a life, to raise families, to create businesses in the city and on the farm in this tough area, and to prosper. And it's because because I think of that character of Midwesterners that this heartland has always been the heartbeat of our nation. We believe in freedom, freedom from debt, free enterprise. We believe in the freedom to govern our lives closest to the people. People in the heartland know the government that governs least governs best. That means we demand the freedom to run our schools, to design our health care in a way that meets the obligations and goals of our own people. We believe in the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, the freedom and the right of law-abiding citizens to keep and bear arms, and we stand by those. We stand by the unborn and the rifle. We know that when ordinary people are given freedom in an ordered society, the sky's the limit. Each one of you here in Wisconsin has been proving that. The extraordinary turnaround of this state has been admired all across this country, and I just want you to know, in a very real sense, what's happening here in Wisconsin has consequences far beyond the boundaries of this great and historic state. And as I close tonight, let me suggest to you, as Republicans in Wisconsin, as you search at this convention and you search in the months ahead for the energy to deliver that great victory at every level in this state again, I want to encourage you to see this contest in the larger context, and the role that state-based reform, and the success of state-based reform, and renewed federalism will play in really renewing our nation. You know, Charlie pointed out the fact that, I served 12 years in Congress before being elected governor of the great state of Indiana. And I have to be honest with you. If I only had 12 years left to live, I'd want to live it as a member of Congress. Because that was the longest 12 years of my life. Hey, look, the truth is, Wisconsin, my home state, we're working. But Washington, D.C. is not only broke, it's broken. I mean, it's been said the federal government doesn't solve problems, it just talks them to death and sometimes subsidizes them. But it's been different at the state level. And I have to tell you, the longer I serve as governor of the state of Indiana, the more convinced I am that the cure for what ails this country will come more from our nation's state capitals than it ever will from our nation's capital. We're truly having this country. We must never relent in our effort to renew our national government and elect the kind of principled conservative leadership that we've sent from Indiana and you've sent from Wisconsin. But I would say tonight, with straight from my heart, that we should, with equal vigor, redouble our efforts to advance freedom and American ideals in every state in the land. For the states are the wellspring of the American experiment. In a very real sense, Ronald Reagan understood this maybe more than any other Republican in my lifetime. You know, it was in President Reagan's first inaugural address that he said to the American people words that we remember. He said, "It's my intention to curb the size and influence of the federal government." But then he went on to say, and to demand the recognition of the distinction between the powers granted to the federal government and those reserved to the states. And then he said words a generation or more ahead of their time. He said, "All of us need to be reminded that the federal government did not create the states created the federal government." President Reagan was then come to my home state, to our state legislature in 1982, a year after he spoke those words. And he announced a presidential commission on federalism. True story. He came and gave a speech before the Indiana State Legislature, and he proposed 36 different federal programs to be sent back to the states with the resources and cutting the red tape. But it went nowhere. And after reading that speech and reflecting on President Reagan's passion, I went and sat down with former Attorney General Ed Meese the year before I was elected governor. And I said to Attorney General Meese, I said, I don't know if this was any kind of a thing, but It was a speech he gave in Indianapolis. You probably don't even remember it. He goes, no, it was a federalism speech. And I said, you remember that speech? And he said, Mike, you need to understand. He said, Ronald Reagan was as passionate about federalism as he was about a strong national defense and confronting Soviet communism in the war. And I said, really? And I said, where did that come from? And he said, well, you know, we were sitting in Washington at the time, and he said to me, you know, a lot of people around here remember President Reagan, but he said, it's very important always to remember, Ronald Reagan was a governor. And he said, we had spent in Sacramento all those years with our hat in our hand, asking that far distant capital on the other side of the country for the permission to use our taxpayer dollars as we saw fit. And he said he had an incredible passion about it. So then I asked him that question. I said, General Peace, well, how come it didn't go anywhere? You know, 35 years ago. And he said to me, and I can say this without being immodest, because I wasn't elected at the time. But he said, it's because you don't have governors like you have today. And he mentioned my predecessor. He mentioned the 45th governor of Wisconsin by name. And he rattled through a list of governors, and he said to me, Mike, you've seen in this recent generation the rise of men and women at the state level of a character and a caliber and a competence, the likes of which we haven't seen in much of the last century. There are lots of good men and women, but in a very real sense, the federal government had come to treat our state governments like territorial outposts of the national government. He said, but today you've got men and women like Scott Walker in Wisconsin and your governor in Indiana who are demonstrating the ability to receive those programs back and run them better than Washington, D.C. ever will. As we renew Republican majorities in our nation's capital, and as we drive toward Republican government in Washington, D.C., I want to ask you this. I think it's essential that we must demand the next generation of Republican leaders not simply cut government spending in Washington, D.C. We must demand that those leaders permanently reduce the size and scope of the federal government by restoring to the state those resources and rights that are rightfully theirs under the Constitution of the United States of America. That must be all right. Not that realigning and reinvigorating federalism will be an easy task. I've worked in Washington, D.C., and they've got sticky fingers out there. And then I would submit to you that upholding those constitutional principles, principles of the Republic, has probably never been easy. Thomas Paine wrote these words that might be an encouragement to you. They are to me. He said, quote, "We have this consolation with us that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. Heaven knows how to put a proper price upon its goods, and it would be strange indeed if so celestial an article as freedom should not be highly rated." So we are encouraged. And we remember the defense of liberty is a defense of our homes, our families, our communities, the defense of our children, born and unborn. So to every freedom-loving American in this place, I simply say from my heart, stay in the fight, Wisconsin. Continue to hold the banner of freedom high here in this great state. Re-elect this good government and his great team and the extraordinary cadre of leaders that you're producing at the state and local level. Reaffirm your practice of the principles of the American founding in this state. For we must not become weary in doing good. For at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. In due time your labors in freedom's vineyard will prevail. Our nation will be restored. Because where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. So freedom always wins. Thank you for the honor of addressing me this evening. It's wonderful to be in this council. God bless you all. God bless you.
Pence. We're going to finish up dinner, and we will begin the program again in about 15, 20 minutes. So enjoy yourself.